Hello. If you come from narcissistic abuse or a toxic childhood or dysfunctional family, then you have had a full life where there's like an undertone in you that is driving everything. It's like a deep, deep seated feeling of fear or guilt or shame. And you might have tried all different types of talk therapy. You have watched every single YouTube video that Dr. Ramani, I can warmly recommend her, that she has made about narcissistic abuse and toxic childhoods. Um, you have been to therapy, you have read all the books, you've done all the courses, and yet there's this persistent feeling in you of you not being okay. That feeling of you being inadequate. I hear so many people in our community that talks about that they have that feeling of being too much and being in the way, and yet they're not enough. They're not good enough. They're not smart enough. They're not pretty enough. They're not clever enough. They're not intelligent enough. They're not funny enough. They're not worth being in a relationship with or having friends. And they kind of like just wait around for the other shoe to drop whenever they are experiencing something nice in life. And if that is you, welcome. It's what we talk a lot about with the Awakening curriculum in the lower 5 feathers, which are the ones that are dealing with all of that trauma that we have in us. And what you probably have done is that you have looked into your spirituality. You're looking into that part of you that know that there's something more, that there's something bigger than you, that it's that feeling of inadequacy that you have might be what you have addressed in therapy and in all the work you have done. It's not really releasing the feeling of inadequacy or the feeling of shame or guilt or fear that you have, but it's kind of like in the direction where you can feel something is happening. That when you're calming yourself and you come back to this moment and you notice what is actually here, it's like all the demons become more quiet. And yet it's still not helping you completely because it's like an undercurrent in you. And the reason is, like I talked about in so many videos, that what you know as your personality, what you see as you, that is part of your conscious mind. It's everything that you are aware of is you. It's all the values that you hold. It's the beliefs that you hold. It's all the things that you know happened and that you are working through and working with. It's that underlying belief about who you are. It's the fear you have, the guilt, the anger, the frustration, the shame that you hold. That is part of the conscious you, your conscious personality that you can address in therapy and with all the work that you do. But that is only 5% of you. The rest, the 95% of you, that is the ghost in the machine. That is the subconscious blueprint. That is all the things that you're not aware of. And that is the deciding the deciding factor for how your life has unfolded itself. Because if you go into a relationship or into a new job or moving to a new place or anything that has happened in your life with the conscious mind of openness and I'm going to, get through this, I'm going to deal with this, and you really have that feeling of being strong and determined and you're manifesting positive things, the conscious mind can only do so much. The 95% of you is unknown to you. So you might have a feeling in your body of something being off, or you have a feeling in your body about being wary about that person, or you might have a feeling in your body about the relationship you're in. You need to get out. The job you have, you need to get out. You might have that feeling in your body, but when you look into your conscious mind, you cannot figure out why. Why do I have this feeling? Everything with my partner is great. I mean, he or she is supporting me, and on paper, everything looks great. So why do I have that feeling of something is off? Something is not right. I've once spoke with a private detective that said that whenever a woman or a partner would come to him and wanting to find out if their spouse was cheating on them, he knew that they were, because that feeling that you have of something being off, that's true. That is your spider sense that is noticing reality or truth. And I know there is no reality and there is no truth. This is just a way of being able to talk about these things. So that feeling that you have in you is what I would like for you to awaken to. And I would recommend you to start in the second feather in the Awakening curriculum, particularly if you have experienced narcissistic abuse, if you come from a toxic childhood or you come from a dysfunctional family. Looking into the second feather is helping you with that underlying um, river current in you, and getting you closer to realizing what is actually unfolding in your life. And again, you cannot do that with your conscious mind, because the conscious mind is only 5% of it. It's the 95% that is hidden under the hood, that is deciding how you enter a relationship, that is deciding if you stay in a relationship, that is deciding how you perceive the world, how you perceive yourself. And what you do is that the first thing you have to do is become aware of how much of your life is thoughts about what is happening, thoughts about your life, thoughts about your childhood, about the narcissistic abuse or traumatic childhood or dysfunctional family that you come from. How much is thoughts about it? And all of that you can basically put aside, because that is just stories. It's stories that you created when you were at an age where your brain was not fully developed. Your nervous system was created between the second trimester until you're 3 years old. That is when the HPA axis in the body and the brain is created. And that is the deciding factor of if you're locked into fight, flight, freeze, or please. And that is not up for your conscious decision. It's not something you can decide about. You can get tools on how to calm your nervous system, and I will give you lots of tools of that, and there already are lots of tools of that. But you cannot decide how your nervous system is going to react in a certain situation, because that was programmed pre-verbal before you were aware of it at all. So when we have had experiences like that, then as we grow up and as our brain develops, we're trying to make sense of it. And when we do that, we create a story that might be similar to what happened, but it's not touching into the trauma, because the trauma is in the body. And when something is subconscious, you cannot make it conscious. When you try to make something conscious, you will just create a story. You will make up shit that seems to be true, that seems to tap into the feeling you have in your body. But the vocabulary is not the same. What you experienced when you were 3 or 5 is created a trauma in your body and in your psyche, in your intellect, in your spirituality, in your emotional self. It created a trauma that cannot be formulated with the conscious mind of an adult. You need to detach the conscious mind, detach all of the stories, and allow that just to be stories, and feel into the body of how does this feel. And that is when the real work starts. Because you might have a feeling of fear, let's say. That feeling of fear needs to be allowed. You need to have unconditional acceptance towards that fear. And you cannot do that if you're trying to soothe it or make it go away or anything like that. And we do that because the conscious mind is trying to create a story about the fear instead of just sitting with the fear in your body. You have no idea how that fear actually feels. You have an idea of how you think it feels, or how the stories you have created about it, but it was horrendous when I felt that fear last time. I couldn't breathe. I was nauseated. The whole room was spinning. Went into deep, deep depression, and all of that is a story. And I'm not um, saying that what you experienced wasn't real, because it was. I'm saying that what you reacted to was the stories about it. And the mind is always creating stories about things. I would like for you to stay in your body. And in Buddhism, we talk about that nothing is permanent. And it's so helpful when we're working with the mind body integration, because you allow for a feeling in the body to arise. And then you get curious. First of all, you pull yourself up in that meta awareness, in up to the fifth floor, as I call it, where you notice what is arising in your body. And then you allow that to be as it is. Get curious and notice how the sensation in the body is ever changing. It's never the same. If you have a feeling of suffocation, then sit with that feeling of suffocation. Do not create a story about it. Allow that feeling to be, and notice how alive it is. It is not the same all the time. You will not suffocate yourself at all. That is the fear that is talking. Back into the body. You need to be that supportive adult in the room that is helping you heal. So you allow the feeling of fear to arise. You might feel suffocation. Be curious. How does that feel? Notice how it's moving. And then notice what the mind has done always, your entire life. Whenever you have felt fear or guilt or shame or inadequacy, the mind stops the story there, where it's like on a peak, and it's taking up everything. It's taking up the entire universe. It feels like it's taking up everything. The whole world is about how shameful you are, how guilty you feel, how fearful you are, how inadequate you are. Allow that to be that big. And then notice your earlobe. Notice your earlobe. Notice your big toe. And notice that that fear, that inadequacy, that guilt, that shame is not in the earlobe. It's not in the big toe. So the mind created a story about it taking up everything. That was the story. Reality is that you feel it somewhere here. You feel the shame, the fear, the guilt, the inadequacy here. But that is all it is. It is a contraction in the body. It's a sensation in the body. And that's it. Without a thought added to it, it's just an arising and a disappearing, an arising and a disappearing. And it's not taking up anything in your big toe or in your earlobe. Sit with that. Create a practice where you sit with that. If you are starting to meditate and this is the first time you're ever going to try anything like that, or if you already have a meditation practice, sit with that. Notice what is arising in the body. Allow that to arise. Notice what is around it. Just like when you hear a song is not made out of the melody. It's made out of the emptiness between the tones. That is what is creating a song. And it's the same with whatever feeling you have in the body. It's not created by the contraction. It's created by the emptiness between the contraction. Anything you experience is empty of any inherent existence. I will make another video where I clarify that and talk more about that. But it is basically that whatever is arising in the body is an arising. It's nothing more. It's not fear. It's not shame. It's not guilt. It's not inadequacy. It is a contraction in the body. It's an arising in the body. And you can allow that to be. You can sit with that, allow that to be. And notice how it shifts and turns. And if it gets too much, notice where it's not. Notice the silence between the contraction. Notice all the other things. Notice your earlobe. Notice your big toe. Notice all the other things around you that is not part of it. That is not part of that sensation in the body. And that is how you write it out. That is how you really become truly aware of what is actually here and what you think is here. And that is the first step to you truly healing from narcissistic abuse, from a traumatic childhood, and from a dysfunctional family where you have been led to believe who you are and how the world is. You allowing the story to be put aside and just notice what is arising in this moment right now is the first step into your healing. I can recommend you to check out the second feather. It's the doubt curriculum, because doubt is that prevalent feeling that we have in ourselves that something is not as it's supposed to be. And that is where I will recommend you to start to look. But I will create more videos in this series where you can start to heal from narcissistic abuse, traumatic childhood, and a dysfunctional family. Enjoy. We have created a course of our first feather material. This course will walk you step by step through all of the ways in which identification is created and selfing happens. If you've been struggling to see through the self-structure or have that first awakening shift, this course contains hundreds of tools to help you discover the selfing mechanisms when they're happening, and then see through the illusion of identification that are created. Along with over 14 hours of videos, this $49 course contains a full book worth of summaries, extrapolations on the videos, written inquiry suggestions, and other text. So work slowly, leave time for integration. This is powerful material and it can be life-changing.